If you want to achieve greatness, you need to become the most selfish person in the world. This is the best thing you can do for yourself and the people around you. While everyone tries to convince you that selfishness is a bad thing, I'm going to bring a different perspective to your life. But before anything else, you need to understand that the true meaning of selfishness is putting your own interests and needs above everyone else's. In other words, it means placing yourself at the top of all your priorities without caring about anything or anyone else. Many people see this as a bad thing, but since when did making yourself a priority become something bad? Selfishness should be considered a good thing, but society tries to convince us otherwise. They tell you that you have to set your priorities aside to help others, but no one teaches you that your priority should be yourself before anyone else. Let me tell you a little secret. Caring more about others than yourself will only destroy your life. I'm not saying you should stop helping people, but before you do, check if they really need help or if they're just lazy and trying to dump their work on you. Because most people are like that. Just to make their lives easier, they want to make yours harder. That's why I only ask for help as a last resort, when I really need it. Before that, I try everything to solve it on my own, because I value people's time, and just as I do that, I expect them to value mine as well. Back when I was in school, I had a friend who always left his assignments for the last day. When that day came, he would always ask for my help to do his work. At first I helped because I didn't want to seem like a bad person. But after it started affecting me, I stopped helping, and I learned a very important lesson from that. Before helping someone, you need to understand why they're in that situation. Most of the time, they put themselves there, and trying to help them will only hurt you. But if you really want to help people, you can do it by being selfish. That way, you help others indirectly. In the end, everyone wins because they also benefit from your selfishness. Do you think gyms, restaurants, pharmacies, and all other businesses were created to help people? They just want the money. But indirectly, they end up helping everyone, even if that's not their main goal. In the school example, I helped my friend indirectly. He got a 0 on the assignment, and because of that, he stopped leaving everything for the last minute. In the end, it made him a better person. In the short term, it might seem like you're a bad person, but in the long run, they'll realize that everything you did was just helping them in a different way. The big problem is that people confuse selfishness with arrogance. Being arrogant and being selfish are two completely different things. While selfishness is prioritizing yourself, arrogance is looking down on others because you think you're superior. But no one is superior to anyone. You might be better than others at some things, just like they're better than you at others. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, but in the end, we all come from the same place and are made of the same thing. That's why you shouldn't be arrogant and look down on people. Nobody likes being around an arrogant person because they're unbearable. Selfish people, on the other hand, are a different story because they don't harm anyone. In fact, they help in their own way. But there's something really interesting about this. If you take a moment to observe people, you'll realize that everyone is selfish. People only care about themselves. There's no such thing as a truly good person in this world. Everything people do has some interest behind it. If they weren't benefiting in some way, they wouldn't do it. That's the truth. Most people, even when they're helping others, are only doing it to feed their own ego and feel good about themselves, or because they're afraid of being labeled as bad people for refusing to help. They help with their own interests in mind, not because they genuinely want to. There are also many people who only avoid doing harm because they fear the consequences, whether in this life or after death. In the end, everyone is selfish and only does what benefits them, but many like to hide that behind good intentions. Here's a warning for you. Nothing in this world is free. Be skeptical of other people's good deeds, because there's probably some personal interest behind them. Selfishness comes from the ego, and there are many books saying we need to eliminate the ego to evolve in life. I agree with those books to some extent. I recognize that the ego is a big problem, responsible for many of the bad things in humanity. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's that nothing is so bad that we can't learn from it and use it to our advantage. And selfishness is one of those things. To me, selfishness is much more about knowing how to say no to all the things and people that pull you away from your goals. The big problem is that we've been conditioned to feel bad about saying it. It seems like saying no is wrong, that it's rude, or that we're going to disappoint or hurt someone. To avoid this, we come up with 1,000 excuses and lies, and people notice it. It's much better to be honest and say no right away instead of trying to justify yourself. It doesn't matter if people don't like it. How they interpret it is up to them, not you. Some might see it as rude, while others will respect it. You don't need to feel guilty about it. Trust me when I say that saying no is freeing and brings an unmatched sense of peace to your life. The rule is simple. If it's not an obvious yes, then it's an obvious no. If you're not sure about saying yes, you should say no. Because when you say yes, even when you want to say no, you're giving up your own wants for the sake of others. Your life will completely change when you stop trying to please everyone and start prioritizing what really matters to you. Be more selfish, because at the end of the day, if you don't put yourself first, no one else will.